Hey, I'm here with my friend Tailah coming to us live from Nashville, Tennessee. How's it going this morning in Nashville, Tailah?
Hey, it's great. It's great in Nashville. The weather is beautiful. It's another great day, great fall day. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. Fall in Nashville is definitely means something different than fall in Florida, but we do what we can. There's some leaves on the ground, not as quite as cool as Nashville, but
Mm.
that's Music City, right? So yeah, you
It's
get the good,
beautiful. It's
yeah,
beautiful.
you get the good seasons and the good weather, but being in Music City, and I met you through your brand new hubs, Jerricho, because Jerricho and I
Mhm.
met a few years back, and we got to be in Nashville, actually, Susie and I, and celebrate you guys' big day together. So that was awesome. So thank you so much for inviting us and letting us be a part of that, because
Thanks for
it was
coming. It was so
such a fun
fun.
wedding. And I mean, Michael Jackson was there. There was fire twirlers. There was great food. And okay, so I didn't really tell you guys this, but Susie and I had been on a 2 month diet called Optavia, where basically we were eating like six little snacks a day. I don't know why I'm going into all this
Oh,
detail, but people just need to know, I guess. And but we weren't eating anything other than those snacks and like one lean and green meal a day, which was like a meat and like two servings of vegetables. However, I'm saying all this because we busted through that with that delicious wedding cake that you guys had. So
oh my gosh. I love that. Yeah,
it was
it
totally
was
worth the
so
wait.
good. I love
Yeah.
that.
So sidebar aside, I always like to ask people. I know that you are in the music industry and been there for a while, but kind of how did it all start? Where did your music journey begin for you?
My music journey began probably when I was 12. I was getting into music. I started buying some albums and really getting inspired and thinking, like, wow, I love music. I want to be a songwriter. I want to do this. And so my cousin was just an amazing producer, and we just started collaborating together, and he had a home studio, so we would just drive over after school and just sit down, and I would write to tracks all the time. Started
Wow.
doing that at age 12 and on up and throughout school. And as I got older, and going to college and figuring out your path, I started getting into the music industry and doing internships and things like that, and finding my way. It's definitely a coming of age, figuring out, okay, where do I fit into this? So it has definitely been a journey that the Lord has really had to like guide me step by step. I think I would be very confused and not know what I was doing if I was trying to do it alone.
No, that's great, and what a blessing that is that your cousin was doing the production thing, because a lot of people may not even know what top lining is now, but that's kind of how you started. So were you writing kind of like pop stuff, or like what was the first kind of songs and styles that you were doing?
So he was very into electronic. So there was pop, there was EDM, there was dubstep, and I have a lot of influence in that area, of course, because that was the tracks and the style that I started learning how to write to. That was definitely where I started. And around high school, I joined the worship team at my church. And so that kind of was like, okay, I like this too. And is there a way I can blend them? And some of the songs that we've been working on kind of are a blend of that. And I'm super excited to release them in early 2022.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I can't wait to dig into that process too. So did you start releasing those songs you were working on with your cousin as well?
I did, yeah. My first song that I released, it was dubstep. It That was a whole
That
era.
was a
That was a
thing, man.
time. I was 12. It is still on iTunes to this day, and it's just really funny to listen back and when you're a kid and just seeing how far you've grown. And yeah, so I started releasing a lot of stuff on SoundCloud, a few things. The songs that stood out, we would do iTunes and Spotify releases, but it was cool. There were a few songs that they did well, and got a couple 100,000 streams, which at the time was a really big deal because I was like 15 and I didn't really know what I was doing, and I
Mm.
was completely independent, didn't know anything about the music industry, didn't have any connections. And I remember sitting in like geometry class and everyone's working, and I was just on my little laptop reading like all these music blogs or talking about this song that I wrote with my cousin in the basement. And it was a really surreal moment. And I think that was a moment that I had where I was like, okay, I think like people like this. I think it's being received and it could actually be something that I do. That was a really encouraging time, like growing up, and definitely gave me a push to work harder and develop the craft more and really see it as a real door that could be open instead of just maybe a hobby.
That's great. And I think, something that I know that like labels and music industry professionals look for is that initial kind of organic reach, because obviously if it's resonating organically, then that's where you can sort of start putting marketing and dollars and things into it. So with that, I know that you have a huge extensive knowledge and experience in the marketing world. So did you begin your marketing of your own music then, or how did that kind of marketing side start to come in?
The marketing side started developing in college, with the song that just organically went crazy. One really big music blog picked it up, and then it just kind of exploded in that niche audience. So that was just luck. But I was in my head, I remember I was like, how does this happen? Like, do you have to know people? Is there a way? Like, it was kind of always there, and I didn't really understand it. And then when I got into college, I initially wanted to study and major in music business at Belmont. And my dad was actually like, don't study music business, just study business and like marketing. And he said, you can apply marketing and business to anything you ever want to do. It will be more useful to you. And at first I was like, no, like you're a dream crusher. I don't want to, music is the goal. But he talked me into it, and I'm really glad he did. And so I started learning about marketing and algorithms, and I already really enjoyed social media. I'm in that generation that really grew up with it. And so I already understood a lot. And so it was really understanding algorithms, I think, was probably the most important thing as far as marketing my own music, especially with like TikTok and new apps that are coming out. If you can understand how those apps work and creating engaging content, then it will market itself. In marketing, there's this really important phrase that everyone who's in marketing knows, and it's content is king. And so if the content is good and the quality is good, it's just a matter of posting consistently until something takes off.
Wow. That's a soundbite right there. That's great. I mean, and that's so true. And man, it stinks when parents they're always right. Dang it.
Right.
But, just like you said, like you can apply marketing to anything from, working at a grocery store to music to movies to anything. So that skill, especially now, is like, because really social media is only like 20 years old, maybe. Or, I mean, I got MySpace, in 2005 or so, and I know it was already out, but that was sort of like the dawn of like social media, what it is now.
Right.
Facebook wasn't even out yet. It was, and side note too, I love how most of these social media platforms were designed for musicians. I love, because like MySpace was created for musicians. TikTok obviously was called Musical.ly before it was TikTok. So like, the music people always kind of start these things. So
It's so cool.
Yeah, and so like you having a firm grasp of that really helps. So I know that, so you went to Belmont and you started studying, the marketing side a little bit more in depth. So did you start to implement that into the music industry through internships and things?
Yes. So that was kind of my edge. Everybody that I was, I guess, competing for internships with, it was a lot of Belmont music business students. And my edge was, okay, like I'm already here for the music, but what I can offer you is really high quality marketing, social media content, graphic design, and they loved it. So that got me an internship. At the time, it was called Red Jet Artist Management. It's not called that anymore, but it was a management company for Lauren Daigle, Sadie Robertson, Cody Carnes. And the roster just had amazing people on it. And so I got to, just really offer my social media skills to the people who managed all of these artists. And it was really fun. And that was my first kind of experience in the music industry. And
Mm.
after that was when I applied to be a digital marketing specialist at Full Circle Music. And they really were looking for marketers. That was what they wanted. And so not just anyone with a music business degree. Like they were like, do you know SEO, search engine optimization, all of these extensive questions. And luckily, because that was my area, it opened the door there. And, I learned so much about marketing with the Full Circle team. I mean, they really know what they're doing as far as marketing goes, and got to meet my husband. So it was
Yeah.
definitely an awesome, important season. And you don't have to be a marketer, but if you understand marketing, it will open a lot of doors for you.
I mean, it's so important because without
Mhm.
marketing, it's just throwing pebbles into the ocean and hope that somebody
Yes.
sees them, like,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's a misconception. And I bet even at the level of people that you were working with, and know now being in Nashville, like people still are kind of mystified by like, oh, you mean if I put a song out, not everyone's going to go listen to it and know that, like so many people are I don't know what that is. Maybe because back in the day, if you like played a show, A&R people could walk by and hear it and like change your life or something. But like that's
Yeah.
obviously if there's 60,000 songs uploaded to Spotify a day, just Spotify, like there's no
Oh,
way to get heard unless you have a legit marketing plan kind of behind what you're doing. So
yeah, for
so but
sure.
you kind of understanding that already is great, and being an expert in that field. So maybe moving out of the music side a little bit, because obviously TikTok is a big thing that you do, and a lot of people, are very interested in that and know that it's a great platform. So what's kind of been your experience, and did you kind of bring in a plan into TikTok starting out, or did you just kind of join the app and kind of let's see what happens, or like what was your strategy as to now? Because I just saw you just posted, I mean, 200,000 followers. It's amazing. Congratulations.
That's crazy. Thank you. I'm like,
Yeah.
how do 200,000 people like care about like stuff that I'm talking about? It's
Because you know the algorithm and you're
yeah.
talking about amazing stuff. But I want you to talk about
Mm.
all of that stuff because people need to know and go follow you.
That would be great. So I did not have a master plan going into TikTok. I think I kind of hoped there would be. I mean, I think everybody hopes, when they join a platform or when they release an album, oh, like I'll get seen or this will get heard. Or, if you're creating stuff, you want people to watch what you're creating. And so that hope was always there, but that was never the motive. It actually started like the whole process of me even making these TikToks started way back years ago, where I just was having this moment in college where I rededicated my life to Jesus. And he told me, I want you to write for 1 year. And there was other things I was supposed to fast from for that year, but the main thing was that the Lord really wanted to develop writing, not even speaking, but writing.
Mm,
And I thought that just meant songs, but he actually started giving me like words and like little sermons, and it was just flowing out of me. And so I created this blog, and it really got me researching and into theology, and it really built the foundation of like my relationship with him, my understanding of the word, and starting to share the gospel with people.
mm,
And that was the foundation for, and then 2 years later, TikTok comes out, everyone's joining it, it's quarantine, and I just am like, wow, like I could create videos and I could teach people about the Lord, and maybe it will help someone. Part of my testimony is that I grew up in the church, but in college, I was deceived by a lot of different practices that I saw around me. New Age is still a really big movement where people are into like their crystals and chakras and things like
mm,
that. And I had kind of fallen into that, and the Lord woke me up out of it. And so I'm still really passionate about my testimony and talking about those things and how Jesus is the only way. And so I started making videos with that in mind, like if TikTok can blow up a video and I can tell people that, you know, Jesus is the truth, like that would be enough for me. And so that's why I started making these videos, and they started taking off, and some of them have millions of views, and it's amazing. And I don't
mm.
take credit for it because I really feel like that's just something that, he's putting these words in my belly. I never thought I would be a speaker. That was never the goal. I always thought writing songs and singing. And so it's cool that the Lord just kind of built up this platform, and I've always been waiting for him to like give me the green light. Whenever it's the right time, tell me. And just now in the past couple of months, things have really been falling into place, and
Mm.
the Lord is saying it's time to release your music, and I already have this giant platform that's there. And so it was definitely orchestrated. I don't take credit for it. It's a crazy, order of events and the way everything kind of played out. It's really cool.
No, that's amazing. And I think something that I think about a lot too is like if everything went to exactly the way we planned it out, then we're not even involving God in that.
Yeah.
So it's almost like in a weird way, I look forward to not having a clue of where we're going, because then
Mhm.
it's like, okay, God, you just kind of light that way, and then
Yeah.
we'll show up, and then it'll be like you said, like writing. Okay, you're going to Belmont, you're doing marketing, but you're in the songwriting scene. Of course, writing is going to be writing songs,
Yeah.
but it's writing in a different way, which is really cool. So I wanted to kind of nerd out a little bit on your process of, because I feel like one of the biggest stopping blocks for people in creating content is they don't know, you know, how to do it, or they've got
Mhm.
their perfection meter too high and they think they need all the stuff to be able to pull off a good video. So like, what's your process in, I mean, so it sounds like you have a lot of your concepts and themes kind of pre-written, or at least that in general, but like what does that look like for you to create a piece of content for TikTok or other social media platforms?
So the best way for me was I honestly, like, it's just being quiet and listening. I started out because I didn't have like followers or fans or people ask. I didn't have any of that. And so I was just like, well, I'm just going to talk about whatever the Lord puts in my heart to talk about. And so there would be certain topics that I would just really feel like I need to talk about this. Like I need to
Mm.
share my story or this. And so that's how it started, like really listening. And then once I started doing that, people started finding it. And the way the TikTok algorithm works is it will push your content out to a small pool, a small audience. And if they interact with it well, then it will push it out to a bigger and bigger and bigger. So
Mhm.
it's all about how many people are interacting. And so if your content is good, if you're talking about something that people care about, nobody is going to care if you're just sitting and like talking about yourself. Like, here are the top 10 tips you can have to improve this. Like, people want to receive something of value. And so, if you can give them something of value, and it doesn't have to be microphones and cameras, like, if you can see if it's well lit and you're on an iPhone camera and you can hear well, that's all you need. And you need to offer something of value, something that is good quality content. And the best videos, the viral videos, all have hooks. And so if you can get people engaged, a crazy clip, something like outrageous or a really, interesting one liner. This is the story about the time I met Justin Bieber, stuff like that.
Mm.
People they want to continue watching because you have them hooked. And so the best viral videos have a hook, have a very engaging. I think people's attention span is around 7 seconds when they're looking at a video. So if you can capture them in those 7 seconds, your video will perform well in theory. But yeah, and so once people start interacting with my stuff, then I started getting really good questions. Well, I don't know, for example, um, is the Trinity really in the Bible? The word is never used, and then people start asking stuff, and then it becomes easier to make content, and you can start see like, okay, a lot of people are asking me about dreams, like how to follow your dreams with God. I'll make some videos on that, and I think that's a
Mm.
little more common sense. But for me, it was a lot of listening and a lot of, okay, Lord, what do you want me to talk about? And I think that's why He allowed for it to grow and reach people, because it wasn't the Tailah show, but I still do, like, I try my best to really listen and ask him, what do you want me to talk about? And so I
Mm.
think even for songwriting and as an artist and as a content creator, the more we can listen to God, the more he can trust us to steward the gifts that he's given us, and the more it will reach people.
So good. So consistency, how often are you posting, preparing like content? Weekly, multiple times a week? Like, what does that look like for you?
So a lot of people will tell you, and this is like the right thing to do. I don't do it, but marketers will tell you like, block out a few hours one day a week, like a Saturday is, most people aren't working on Saturday. Take your Saturday morning, your Saturday afternoon, and create content in bulk. Just sit and like knock out 10 videos or 7 videos so you can post one every day of the week. And I think if you are doing in any niche, really, this should work. The stuff that I do is I'm just a very spontaneous, emotional, like spirit led. That's kind of like so for me, I just make a video every day. Like every day I feel like there's a fresh word, and that's my thing. That's not how everyone has to be. And if you're very busy and that would stress you out, don't do that. It's just what works for me. It's less stressful if I can like, okay, 10 minutes a day is a lot less for me than like, okay, here's 5 hours on a Saturday. And then for me, that burns me out. For other people, it works well. So find a schedule that works for you. Maybe it's twice a week or whatever it is. But when I first started making TikToks, I posted once a day. And this really helped me. Now that my account has gotten bigger, it's a little bit different for bigger accounts. You can post every day and it's not going to hurt you. But it also is good. Like if you have a video that really blows up on TikTok, wait a day or 2 days and let it finish pushing through the algorithm before you do anything else. And so now that's kind of what I do. So usually it's every other day, sometimes like every 2 days. That's usually my posting schedule now, but definitely in the beginning, post every single day.
Yeah. And so because I know that the watch time is key. Are you looking to go the full minute videos? Just depends on the topic, or does that play a role in your strategy? You just kind of like end up where you end up with it, or like how does that go as far as the duration goes?
So the 60-minute videos tend to perform better just because people's attention span is short. But if you're saying something really important, if you're telling a crazy story, or if like in my case, like God will put a very deep and complex teaching on my heart, I need 3 minutes to break it down. But if the content is good, people will watch it. So if you're telling a story or you're going into detail and you need that 3 minutes, as long as it's captivating, people will watch it. But the 60-second videos are they're pushed more, again, because the attention span is short. So and also something that I found is that when your account grows, people will repost and share your videos to other platforms too. And so the 60-second videos can be repurposed on Instagram as reels. And that's something else that I would encourage all of you to do if you're an artist or if you're growing, is record your TikTok video, the 60-second ones, save it in your phone, and then post it to your Instagram reels. And those have to be 60 seconds or less. And so then that can save you time creating too. Or if it's just a really good video, why not put it on both platforms and get more exposure?
Yeah, that's great. Now, I've heard it said both ways, but YouTube has their own opinions of everything. But have you seen it? Does it matter if you have the TikTok watermark, or do you try to record without the watermark when you're sharing those to Reels also?
With Reels, you need to take the watermark out. They will not push it because TikTok is their competitor. I posted a TikTok that I got over 1 million views on. I posted it to Reels with the watermark because I thought this video is so good, like it's gonna perform well, watermark or not. It got 0 views. It didn't even show it to anyone.
Wow.
Like for hours, it just had a little 0 by it. I was like, okay, no
So
watermark
sad.
at all. Got it.
Yeah. So do you have an app that removes it, or do you get it before it puts the watermark in? How do you get that?
People do it either way. I think with the apps that remove it, sometimes it can leave it fuzzy or like weird looking. So I prefer to like record it before the watermark gets put on it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's great. Well, so much good TikTok wisdom there. And, kind of as you're getting ready to do, because I want to dig into, the new music I have coming out too, but as a transition point, like, how do you have any kind of plan? And of course, this could be, I'm not ready to release yet, but like, as far as like rolling out your musical stuff, because primarily your TikTok has been kind of Christ and culture and like great stuff that people need to, but it's not necessarily musical, but like as you start to roll out your new stuff, like how do you kind of plan to do that once you get there?
So right now, since we're still like working on a lot of songs, I've started doing some like behind the scenes, and it definitely helps. I think if I was trying to be a country singer, I don't think this plan would work, but because I'm doing worship, it's an easy transition, and I'm still gonna make videos talking about stuff like culture and this and that, but also doing the music thing, and I think it's really cool because these people have really gotten to like grow with me. They know where I stand. They know my heart on a lot of stuff, and there is like the connection there, and they feel like they know me because I've shared so much of my heart that I know that when it's time to release my music, like they already have said like we're really excited because they've been on this journey with me, and I think sometimes people are weary of like, should I like listen to this? Do I know this person? What do they believe? Like, but I think because they know where I stand on stuff, like they're just gonna be really excited for the music that's coming out. So right now it's been behind the scenes, like here's Jerricho, we're in the studio, we're writing, this is a worship song about, this or that. And that's really been getting them excited. That's a marketing technique that I really observed and learned from Taylor Swift. A lot of people say like don't like push your stuff like super super early, but she will say I'm coming out with an album like in 6 months or next year, and because like she has such a loyal fan base, the excitement just builds and builds and builds. And
Mm.
I'm not at that level where I'm going to announce it in a year, but I do feel like I have wiggle room in these 2-3 months, because we're planning on early 2022,
Mm-hmm.
to really show them behind the scenes, talk to them about the process. Everyone's getting excited, and then when it's finally time, like I hope that it does well. And I do have some friends who are artists on TikTok, and they've had some stuff blow up, and the way that they make videos is cool, and how they integrate their music with their videos and how it captures people. So I'm definitely going to try to like learn from some of those people that I see implement that well when the songs come out. So I'm excited. It's definitely going to be trial and error. That's what marketing is. Social media is trial and error. So I'm just excited.
I don't know. Do you know Ben Lane? Have you seen his name or
Mm-mm.
He's a guy. He's a friend. I actually interviewed him earlier this year, but it was funny. Like we did the interview, and then it was like the next week, one of his songs blew up on TikTok and got like
Oh,
eight
cool.
million views or something like that. Like
That's
something
awesome.
crazy, And now that song has like a couple million streams on TikTok or
Wow.
Spotify, all
Mhm.
through that initial push. He had like
Yeah.
3,500 pre-saves, and it was like a big deal. It was really cool.
Wow.
But it just showed. But his thing is like, yeah, he's just always sharing moments, just like what you're talking
Mhm.
about. So it's like, I think it's so important because for a lot of reasons, but I think the main thing is that it builds buy-in because people are a part of the process, so they
Yes.
actually care instead of just another piece of spam in their inbox or whatever. It's like,
Right.
oh, like I always think. I remember it was like a couple years ago. I was watching Corey Asbury was doing like a Insta Live or something, and he was like, "Hey, I'm playing this song. I'm just messing around." And it was the song Egypt that like now is like a single on, and it was like been released and everything. But it's like I feel personally connected to that song in a weird way because I heard him when he
Mm.
was just messing around with it like 2 years ago on Instagram
Yes.
Live.
I think that's what Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo was too. She was like in her room, and she posted a video of her writing that song and was like, "Do you guys like this?" And it blew up, and everyone was like,
Wow, yeah,
"Record this song. Like, this is amazing." And then Driver's License was like the number one song for months
yeah.
earlier this past year.
Totally. So I think that's great, and that's a great insight for anyone out there to like. Because I think a lot of people are so intimidated by social media, or don't even know like what does it matter if I post and I get 5 likes. It's like, well, for one, every like is really important. Doesn't to me it
Mhm.
doesn't matter how many, but two, it's like it's an opportunity, and I think that's like even the way you're talking about followers, you're not just like yeah, I've got all these people that follow me and they like what I do. It's like, no, you're like you're saying, you're moving with them. It's a
Mhm.
relationship. It's a real thing, and
Yeah.
that's what people can sense the authenticity of that, and that you don't just take that for granted. It's not just a number. And
Oh
so, like
yeah.
anyone listening, like that's how social media can really work for you, is
Mhm.
just share your life, and people are going to want to resonate. The right people will find you, because, that's how they resonate with you. So
Yeah.
that's some great advice, and I'm excited. So what's been the process of building this? Are you working on like singles or EP, or have you got that kind of sorted out yet?
So it's crazy because I started writing songs for this like 3 years ago,
Wow.
maybe longer. Like it has been a long time of like writing and being like, this is amazing. And the Lord's like, good, but wait, not yet. So it's been so long. So I feel like I have all of this stuff built up and I'm so excited to finally just like let the caterpillar out of the cocoon and go be a butterfly. So a lot of it, I think the plan is, and my husband has been helping me a lot because he is very wise. He's worked with a lot of artists, a lot of releases, and so I am really listening to his advice. I think the plan is to do singles, and then once, there have been enough out to kind of turn it into like an EP or an album, or
Hmm.
throw in some extra songs in there that aren't really singles but are still really special to me. That's kind of the plan. Things could change, but I think
Yeah,
that's the direction we're headed.
that's great. And yeah, Jerricho definitely has been around a couple of releases. So
Just a few, I think.
just a few. And side note, we'll be doing some releases for some band called Dectify next year too. So I'm really excited about that. stay
Pre-save. Yeah, it's
stay
gonna be
tuned for
good.
more. Yeah, I still have the shirt
Yes.
and wear it at least once a week. So
You hear
yeah,
that? He's over there. He's like, yeah.
yes. I mean, rep and Dectify to death is what I like to say.
That's right.
Yeah. That's great. So, one thing I love to ask people is, and you've already shared so much, but like, what's a piece of advice you'd give to your younger self that you would, just along your journey, even if it's a 12-year-old Tailah, or if it's the, working next year Tailah, whatever that is, but to give to the audience and just to help them along their journey. Yeah.
Listen to the Lord. That's the most important thing. Like obviously besides having relationship with Jesus and knowing, let him be the Lord. Let him direct you because we have, and this has been so true in my life, like starting out doing secular music and not just having no idea how he wanted to use me and trying to do my own thing. It's not going to bring you fulfillment. We think that we know this is what I'm meant to do and this is what I want to do and these are my dreams. And we did not create our hearts, we didn't create ourselves, we didn't create our plans and purposes. And when we're actually walking in the plans that the Lord has for us, we are the most effective, we're the most fulfilled, we're doing exactly what we were created to do. And so surrender your dreams, surrender your plans to Jesus and let him lead you. And I mean, I feel like that's just for life, for everything, no matter what you're
Mm.
doing. And if I could tell my younger self that, I think I wouldn't have had to wait so long to release this stuff, but God's timing is right and he knew. And with stubbornness and learning, he knows everything, but our stubbornness can get in the way of us really being able to walk in the fullness of our calling.
Mm. Wow, so good. And I think, it's like the weird, I feel like that's one of the major tensions in life is like, you know, if you really want to get somewhere, you have to let it go. And it's
Hmm.
like, that doesn't make like logical sense. We're like,
Mm-mm.
well, I remember my friend, pastor of the church I was at before, he had this great, it's like, if you think about the person who is most concerned with like getting things in your life, oftentimes they may be the most unhappy. While if you think about someone who is always giving and always just giving of themselves open handedly, most cases they're the most happy and content person, which completely reverses like the world's math. I
Yeah,
talked to Todd Fields a couple weeks ago, and it's like God's math is different than our math. And I think that's so true. And yeah,
yeah,
that simple surrender is like being willing to lay down everything that you want, and that's how you get it. But you have to really, it's so much tension there, so I
yeah,
love that you brought that up, because that takes maturity and it takes time, because most of the time, yeah, when we're 12 years old, it's like all we really care about is like what we're getting for Christmas,
right.
like, so it's like, I guess it's a little different when you're a kid, but as we mature, it's like yeah, if you really want that thing, you got to be willing to let it go. I remember before I had made the decision that I was going to leave my position at the church, this was 7 or 8 months before we actually, did that to could go full time into what we're doing now and music stuff. But we had this really epic church worship service. It was one of those ones where like nothing goes wrong, which happens like once every like 1,000 services. It was like really good and really strong. And at the end of it, we ended up going into a spontaneous "I surrender all." Ironically, that was the hymn that came to mind or heart or whatever. And like I got super emotional. I was like crying on stage, and I don't do that. I never did that. I could always compartmentalize. But then when I was in the seats afterwards, I was sitting there. I was like, "Well, God, why did that happen?" Like I needed to man up. And he was like, "Do you mean it?" And I was like taken off guard. I always feel like those are the times when God's truly speaking. Is like that's not something I would say. Like.
Oh, right.
Do you mean it? I was like, do I mean what? Well, what, do you surrender? And I was like, yeah. He's like, well, are you willing to surrender this? And it was like I said, like this epic worship. It's like I had to walk 10 feet to get to the seat. Everything was like so simple and there and comfortable.
Wow.
And I was like, well, yeah. And he's like, well, then you got to let this go.
Wow.
And like, that's what started that. And again, it wasn't for like another 7 months till we actually left, but like, it was only in that surrender, which is what you're talking about, that happened. So I'm totally there with you. And I think that that's so valuable. Like we fight so hard for the streams. We fight so hard for the followers and the likes and the views. But like when we just, like you said, just listen, surrender it.
Yeah.
That's when God's going to actually use us as a vessel because we're not fighting him, I think. Right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly.
That's so
it's
good.
Hard to be used when you're in rebellion. How can he use you?
Oh yeah, I mean that's a song right there. How can you be used if you're in rebellion? That's really good. We'll have to write that song. Cool. Well, I really appreciate you doing this. And before we go, I always like to have I'll put all the links and stuff below. But how can people connect with you? What's your handles, and where's the best way for people to find you?
So the best way for you to find me is on Instagram and TikTok. My Instagram is Tailah J, and my TikTok is official Tailah.
Awesome. And then new music coming soon, so we'll be posting all that stuff on the CIS group and everything when we get there. But yeah, this was great. So much wisdom and insight. So I appreciate you sharing. And last thing before we go is I always like to pray before we go. So I'm going to pray for you before we go. So God, thank you so much for Tailah. Thank you so much for her awesome husband, Jerricho, and all the things that they're doing now. We just thank you for her heart to serve and just being willing to be open and listen and surrender everything to you, God. And whether that's through a TikTok video or for a song or for whatever that might be, God, just continue to elevate her platform, continue to elevate her reach as she's getting shining a light into this dark world, God. We're just thankful for her. We're just thankful for all that you have planned for her next. And we're excited to see what you're going to do. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.